Hello and welcome, Matt Goddard from PepsiCo, Wholesale Trading Director. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Convenience Talks. For the people out there who possibly don't come across you in their day-to-day life, could you just explain who you are and what you're responsible for at PepsiCo?
Afternoon, Katie. It's a pleasure to be with you on this sunny afternoon. I'm Matt Goddard. I've worked for PepsiCo for the last 18 years, most of which in the impulse channel, and most latterly, I lead our business with wholesalers in the UK.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So we're focusing mainly on the convenience market today for this conversation. Can you tell me what the sort of initial impact of the coronavirus pandemic had on PepsiCo and on how you were trading with and interacting with retailers, wholesalers? What was that immediate situation change?
I think, nobody really knew what was going on in those first few weeks. So there was panic buying right through the value chain. So wholesalers didn't quite know what they needed, but they needed stuff and they didn't know when they were going to get it. The same was true of retailers and the same was true of shoppers. So you had all these various different pressure points through the system as everybody was panic buying, desperate to get their hands on whatever they could. And our responsibility and accountability in that at first was just to try and get as much product through that chain as possible through to retailers so that they could continue to service their shoppers. And then I think it really started to morph and change quite quickly as people started shifting out of the organized trade and out of the grocers and started shopping more locally, more frequently, more often. And I think what we found in the last few weeks, is we've really started to now settle into this world of shopping where people are shopping more frequently. We're seeing basket spends go up. We're seeing penetration in convenience, unprecedented levels. And then that's really flowing through to category sales, which is fantastic.
Okay, and so how, if we're talking the sort of more recent history, so which of course just literally the last few weeks, everything seems to move so quickly. We know how shopper behaviour has changed. How about conversation and relationship between supplier, retailer, wholesaler? And I mean, obviously the pubs and the on-trade are closed, so is there no relationship there to speak of, or is there support going through to them as well? How has that relationship changed?
I think this has been really important for us. So our Impulse Heartland has been our historical rep organization. We've got a large number of feet on the street, and they've got some really long, well-established relationships with retailers, which clearly, for all the safety reasons and also just the number of people in stores, we haven't been able to maintain. So what's been important there is to try and maintain those dialogues at whatever touch points we can have, because there are still messages to convey, as well as just checking in and finding out that our retailers are okay.
Yeah.
So we've been able to continue some of those conversations in wholesalers. So we've been in supporting wholesalers with just getting stock down on the shop floor. And we've also been able to continue some of those relationships on the telephone and through digital, because the shoppers are behaving really differently. The traditional basket of a convenience retailer has changed. Single serve products have declined, but they're now expecting and looking for multi-packs. They're looking for sharing bags of snacks. They're looking for take-home juice and Quaker oats, which again, normal larder fill products that you'd buy on a grocery weekly shop, people are now looking to buy in a convenience retailer. And we need to get those messages out to retailers. So we're trying to find any way we can in order to do that.
And so does that mean that, with pubs and bars closed, that people are maybe taking their snacking habits into the home? Are those habits still the same though, or are they changing? Because presumably
Absolutely.
if I like a certain brand, I want to still eat that certain brand, even if I'm not going to be in the Dog and Duck, so.
And I think this is kind of what surprised, many people. Some of this you can kind of predict, and you can look into your crystal ball and you can go, I expect people will want to consume more Doritos from convenience retailing because they're going to the organised trade less. And that's really true. The stuff that's probably surprised us more is, you know, traditional pub snacks like bacon fries, scampi fries, nuts. People are now trying to buy those in their convenience retailers. And so there's this great opportunity as convenience retailers are discovering they can sell more beer and more booze, that actually they can sell more pub snacks at exactly the same time, because the shopper's trying to buy those two purchases in one go to then go and consume them wherever they would like, in their living room pub, presumably.
So they're trying to almost recreate the experience at home then. So
Yeah.
convenience retailers need to be aware of that and need to be able to supply that to them until the pubs reopen again, of course, which we're all hoping will be, I think they're talking at July the 4th at the moment, aren't they? So fingers crossed for that. So tell me how, you know, we're talking about how the shopper's behaviour is different. And obviously what that brings me on to just automatically would be delivery, click and collect, and those kind of things. How has that affected you and your category plans?
I think this is really interesting. So, in fact, you know, you've done this research with TWC and so with Circle, looking at kind of how some of these behaviours are changing. And already, just after a few weeks, I think 1 in 4 shoppers have already used some form of click and collect, which, considering this has only been going on for, you know, 10, 12 weeks, is already a huge proportion of the population. And I think, you know, that's just going to continue to grow. So what was something that was bubbling away and maybe the more advanced and forward thinking retailers were starting to engage with, this is now something which is just going to become a staple part of convenience retailing. So whether or not it's linking in with some of the well-known apps, and, you know, we're working with those. So right now, if you sign up to Uber Eats through PepsiCo, we'll be able to waiver the £500 signing on fee, or whether or not it's just setting up some kind of, you know, WhatsApp group, using Facebook to talk to your local community. Some form of click and collect or delivery service, I think, is just what every convenience retailer now needs to be able to do.
And so as we move into the future, and I won't use the dreaded phrase, but as we move into how shoppers are going to continue to behave, what do you think is going to stick, and what changes do you think retailers need to continue compared to the things that might fall back to where they were prior to the pandemic?
I think right now, the people who are in charge of the future are the retailers. So the shoppers are coming to their stores, and that habit is forming because this has been going on for a period of time. It's now the actions of those retailers are going to determine whether or not the shoppers will continue to shop there in a month's time, in 3 months' time, or in 12 months' time. And whilst none of us know what the landscape will look like in 12 months' time, the more of an emotional connection that an independent convenience retailer can build with those shoppers, the more chance they've got of maintaining that relationship and the consistency of them coming in. So having the right products, having the right price, having the right promotion, having the right emotional connection, I think is what's going to be, you know, sets them up for success for the future.
And you mentioned, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, they said a necessity is the mother of invention. And I think that people have gone to these stores because it's necessary, because they didn't want to go to big supermarkets, or they couldn't get delivery, or whatever it was. And now it really is up to the industry to hang on to those people. We hear a lot in convenience about price and promotions. You know, it's always been a bit of a battleground. Do we think that, you know, does the future for promotions look different because of this pandemic?
I don't think anybody really knows. And I think this is, again, where we all need to keep, you know, doing more research. I think we've all been through a slightly odd shopper set of months where price and promotion probably wasn't the first thing on minds. Equally, you know, retailers were worried about availability, and so, you know, price and promotions may have changed because of that. But as the system now stabilizes, I think it is going to become important again. I think it's well documented that we're heading towards a recession, and therefore value is going to be really important. But value comes through price, but it also comes through quality, and, you know, and it's a balance of both of those things as we move forward. So I don't think there's an easy answer, but I think it's something we all got to pay a lot of attention to over the coming months and probably years.
Lovely. Thank you. I think that's the most perfect way to leave it, Matt. Thank you so much for all of your time. Really appreciate you joining me on this episode of Convenience Talks.
Thanks, Katie.